But if they are envious of you, then they're going to try to find every mean and every opportunity to take you down. Here David is in this particular psalm. He finds himself caught between a rock and a hard place. David finds himself on the run. He's a fugitive now. He's on the run because he's being pursued by King Saul. King Saul has made up in his mind that I'm just going to kill this boy David. I'm going to kill him. I don't want to see him no more. I want David gone because I know that if David lives, then my house, my son Jonathan, and everybody in my house, my kingdom will be over because of this boy David. I got to get rid of this David. So David now in Psalm 56 finds himself being held captive by the Philistines. David has run unto King Achish of the Philistines because he's being pursued by Saul. Now, let me understand. Let me explain this to you as we get into the word. Now, David, as he is being held captive, he's being held captive by the Philistines. He says here, he said, "Lord, be gracious," or "Lord, have mercy on me." Lord, be gracious to me, or Lord, have mercy on me. He said, "For man tramples over me." And then he gets to verse 3. And this is where we're going to take off from. He says, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you." David knew that in order for him to trust God, and the first thing I want to share with you tonight, that in order to trust God at this level, you have to try God for yourself. In order to trust him, you have to try him. When I was a little boy, my mama, she evidently had tried God for herself, and she knew that he would be a keeper. She knew that he would be a waymaker. She knew that he would be a protector. So when her oldest son was afraid, the only thing my mother knew to do was to tell me to try Jesus the way that she had tried it. Can I get a witness? She knew to tell me to trust Jesus because she had tried him and he had never failed her. So she knew that if he hadn't failed her, he wouldn't fail me. And so while I was walking through the graveyard, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Written by the same David who now finds himself on the run and being held captive by King Achish and the Philistines. David, in order for him to utter these words in verse 3, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you," is because David himself had tried God. David tried God, and he knew God to be a shepherd because David himself was a shepherd. And David knew that as a shepherd, it was your job to protect your flock. Why Eliab and all of the bigger brothers, David's older brothers, all of the older sons of Jesse were out doing big boy things. David, as the younger boy, was dispatched to be the shepherd which was to protect and safeguard and to protect the flock of Jesse. David was out there. David knew that the Lord had been with him, and David knew that the Lord, he could trust God because as a shepherd, he himself had protected the sheep. And he knew that God had protected him. So, which is why David penned the psalm. In the 23rd division of Psalm, he writes, "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want." Because David knew that as a shepherd, you got to protect and provide for your sheep. He said, "He maketh me to lie down in green pasture." In other words, this green pasture is comfortable and my sheep can be fed right here in green pastures. He said, "He leadeth me beside the still waters." David knew that in order to trust God, you had to try God. David himself had tried God as a shepherd. And so he knew that he could depend on God. Tune in to the next video in this series as we continue to see David learn to trust God through his fear. Be blessed.